someone from the stream. And question was, can you explain the relationship of these kuji-in with the chakras? And the answer is yes. In another class, I will. The thing is, when I put the chakras, we need 1 hour more, because there's a quality of information of which chakra has to go, which each kuji-in, and why we believe that. Although other tradition do different association, and they're still right too. They just go towards another kind of experience. You see, they can't judge which tradition of kuji-in is the best. That would be against the kuji-in fundamentals of you can't define how it's supposed to be. And if another master discovered a different way from the first ones, yeah, I mean, it's a new experience, and this is how they can gain benefits from it. And sometimes I will explain, you know, a traditional toe, why some people do it like this in the temples, but in the martial arts center they do it like this, they bind it like that, and then they do it like this, and they have their Zen is the golden seal, the 3 vessels, or you know, there's all these different wisdoms of each kuji-in tradition. Okay, they all work, because if you do it this, it will deliver that result. If you do this differently in that way, it'll deliver that result. And that is what matters. There's no question of if there's a good, bad, a better, or a worse kuji-in tradition. It has to do with what are the results of which practice, and that's it. Okay? So I teach the tradition I learned and that I support, and I've developed methods to teach it, but it's still the fundamental kuji-in that I've learned as I learned it from contemplation in various readings. And you know, kuji-in is not belonging to ninjutsu. I said I wouldn't speak about the history, but I want to speak about the difference in lineage, because we just spoke of taking things as they are and acknowledge if there is a result, there is a result, and if there's none, there is none. Some people could teach exactly the same technical aspect of the tradition I teach, but without the Dharma, and you wouldn't get results. So you'd say, well, this is not a good kuji-in. Because it's not about how you fold your fingers and which mantra you say. It's about the entirety of the experience in your practice, in your attitude, while you do your kuji-in, but also while you're not doing it. How does it keep you in a proper mind state while you do everything else that you want to do efficiently or with power? Okay, so this idea of which chakra goes with which kuji-in is very good, and I put it in the books because I did write a few books on kuji-in. The day that I will explain the link, I did. Okay, I did, but not in this video, and in other classes I did, which I think were not filmed, but I did, and eventually I'll do it again. When I give a class on chakra, I need to start to explain what is a chakra, because you can't understand the wisdom that I teach about the association of the chakras with kuji-in if you don't have the understanding of chakras that I use in those teachings. And if you believe that a chakra is those systems of energy in your body through which energy flows, you're starting to have definitions and you're getting further and further away from the truth. So I'm not going to speak about chakras now. There's something about states of consciousness, lessons in each chakras, experiences of evolution, that is not just energy flowing. It's experiences vibrating that manifest according to your state of being. So there's an entire technology of the chakras that I would need to explain, and then 2 days is not enough to give you a class on kuji-in, right? So I speak of the mantra, and then we do the mudra. Another day, I'll give a class on the mudra and why we use this finger instead of the other one, and why does it work? Why is it better to do the mudra than when you just say the mantra with your hands like this? There's a reason, okay? But this is an advanced class on a specific point, which is the dharma, the wisdom behind it. Then you'll learn about another aspect and another aspect, and eventually it'll just make sense. While everything just makes sense together. Okay. First, discover RIN, the attitude of RIN is to take things as they are. Okay? The Japanese syllable RIN, and depending on which part of Japan, it is more a R, RIN, or more a L, LIN. Okay? But most of the time it's in between RIN. Okay? It's in between both, because this is just Japanese linguistic. Okay? It doesn't really matter, because it's not part of the original kuji-in, which was not Japanese, it was Hindu. Then it became Chinese, then it became Japanese, then Ninja says they were the only one doing it, but actually 1,500 years before ninjutsu even existed, in any kind of definition, there were people doing it in the Taoist and the Buddhist ways in China. You know, so I mean, it has a broader origin than the one we think in martial arts. In this sense, the Dharma of RIN, taking things as they are. RIN means face. Okay, when RIN is in Japanese linguistic, I don't speak Japanese, but I understand enough because I want to understand what is those kanjis and syllables and how's it work. You know, if a kanji is with another kanji, it contextualizes the kanji, the syllable. It contextualizes what I mean. Okay. So when RIN is used in certain contexts, it means yourself, what you are, your face, okay, or salutation. It can mean anything, depending on the context. But just alone, it means what you are out of context. Just what you are, okay? So it's not just face, it's what you know of yourself. Okay? But that is not the pure Dharma. It's just the way that we classify it. In other tradition, we would have said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In Japanese, they put one syllable as steps. Like their belts, they don't call it first belt, second belt, third belt. They call it, they have name for belt, well, depending on the tradition, of course. Not all of them, but they have these specific titles for every level that you reach. Okay, so it's the Japanese way of doing things, and it's good because it works. Okay, they name their steps instead of numerating them, which is okay. I won't spend that much energy into the kanji. My competence regarding the kanji is questionable because I don't speak fluent Japanese. No, aside from arigatou gozaimashita, okay, baka, teme, you stupid idiot. You know, the first things we learn in the language for real is the insult and the thank you. Right? But aside from, let's say, 20 expressions, I don't have any idea of Japanese, so I don't have credibility to explain what RIN means. But in Sanskrit, I can explain to you Om Vajra Manataya Swaha with quite a level of experience and credibility. Okay, so that's why I go into this approach. This is where it comes from, so I take that. Right. So yes, for all those who question my competence in kuji-in because it's a Japanese art and I'm not Japanese and I don't speak Japanese, you're right. You're right. I've never tried to establish that I have credibility. Please. It doesn't matter. If you believe I have credibility or not, doesn't change anything about the results of the teaching I give. And if so far you've appreciated what you've gained personally from the first class, you did. And if you didn't gain anything, then you didn't. Okay? It has nothing to do with my competence, my definition, what I'm supposed to be myself. All right? So this is another example of the application of this wisdom. If someone has credibility, if someone has a title or a lineage, it doesn't matter. If the guy delivers results, it does. And you got people with lineage and authentic papers and PhDs, or they're Brahman because they come from a Brahmanical lineage and they don't deliver the results. They just don't. Okay, I've met a lot of Brahmins that are holy people and really do deliver the result. But a rare few that are Brahman because their father was, and they know the mantras, but they're assholes. They are completely vicious people filled with hatred and anger. They just believe that they're right about everything. Okay, just a few. Most Brahmans are holy in their mind. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I don't want people to say Maha doesn't like Brahman. I didn't say I didn't like him. I said objectively my experience is this guy is a Brahman and he tried to steal money from me, and when he saw he couldn't, he started insulting me. Okay, you know, a few of those, not just one. Okay, I went to India. I thought I was going to meet holy people. Holy shit, this is what I found. I met two holy people in my trip to India. One is a priest, one is just a doctor of physics in terms of, you know, of wisdom, and he's a holy man. And all the other priests were just hoping I would give them money afterwards. All they did was to grow the donation you give to the priest at the end. It was absolutely awful. You know, a tourist trap. And you call this priest and holy man in India. It was incredible, you know. We all say that India is filled with holy people. Well, they do have quite a lot of holy people. However, it's still one of the least evolved countries spiritually. My discovery of India is a place of very little evolution in terms of virtue. People who steal. It is appropriate for a family to assassinate one of their daughters if she married the wrong guy. They still do that. Not in the center of Bombay, but in pretty much, you know, anywhere else outside of the big city centers. They do crime that is unpunished, and the police says, well, we're not going to do anything. It's a Brahmanical family. We can't touch them. They're Brahmanical. I have never seen, you know, I was expecting, my shock was this definition, that the idea I would go to India to see holy men. Well, I did. There were holy people. Very good people. And in general, the amount of vicious actions that happen in every corner of the street, the greed that motivates the Hindu people, the arrogance of the majority, not everyone, the majority. When I speak majority, I say 9 out of 10, okay? And even my Hindu friends that brought me there completely agree. Because now that we've learned what is virtue, I mean, the Hindu people mostly are stuck with a need to survive because they're poor and hurt, and sometimes they don't have health services. So they're not bad people. They're trying to survive. And then they screw you, they kill, they lie, they manipulate. If they put the amount of energy they do in doing bad, vicious shit, if they put that energy in really helping out each other, they would not have these troubles surviving. Okay? So this idea that I went there and I saw people, because I obviously see in their auras filled with greed and evil, I could feel their intention. They don't care for people. Except that priest that never wanted any donation. When we had a chat afterward, he gave me something. He said, you obviously are a holy man. Please allow me to give you that. And he gave me his Bhagavad Gita, his copy of the Bhagavad Gita. Because I have other copies. This is the one I have. I want to give it to you. And I have a copy of the Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit, translated in Hindi, which I don't speak. But it's a symbol of one holy man. And I told him, you are a holy man, because I can feel your Shakti caressing my skin like silk when you talk. Well, just approaching you, but when you talk, it's just a mess. I can feel it. He says, you feel those things? I was like, of course, don't you? He said, of course, yeah, I do feel those things, but I thought I was the only one on earth. Yeah, am I the only guy that actually feels this in India? He said, no. And then we had a class. I gave him a class of transmigration, how to, feel your chi with the laser gun things. We had a lot of fun. But we took things as they are. And I said, you're a holy man because you're virtuous and you're not greedy, filled with intentions to steal people's money. And the result is you have all the money you need in life and you're healthy and people love you. Because what you do makes people want to love you because you're cool. You have these holy people that people don't really like, but they're holy because they have the title. However, they're holy, and people don't really like them because they keep trying to steal and abuse and have more importance and they're pompous and Brahman. Yeah, I have authority here. I'm the one who decides. Well, okay, if the paper says so, but I don't want to go in that temple anymore. I'll go where the guy is so awesome, So results matter. If you feel good with people, you feel good with people. If actions of someone over and over end up causing happiness in others, real, genuine happiness that does not abuse, that does not manipulate, that is probably a holy person. And if someone is vicious, and what they do is always condemn and bitch and hate, and they're not at peace, obviously so much aggressivity is in their comments, well, they're not holy people. So, in that sense, I say, India is a spiritual paradox because there's an enormous amount of holy people and an absolutely awful amount of vicious people. It's really a big contrast. Okay? And those who are supposed to be holy people, they are usually not. And those who don't give a shit and they don't have the title, but they believe in divinity and God and the love of the other so much that they transmit it. They live with it. So that was pretty awesome. That was my experience in India not so long ago. Okay, so I'm just saying, I had this conception that I would go in India and 1 people on 3 would be a holy person, And I saw 2. I went to go to a temple and I was refused entry because I was Caucasian. That is anti-Hindu. That you can't just say someone doesn't come because we're racist. And it's okay. It's okay. Caucasians are not well seen in one specific part of the Jagannath temple, and I understand why. It's not because they're necessarily evil in nature. It's because Caucasian people in the 1800s were those trying to do trade and would steal the traders and the statues, and there was problems. Okay, so they need to protect their heritage. I understand, but that time is over, and they still didn't grow from that. And I consider myself to be a holy person, wanting to go to the beloved Jagannath temple, and I was refused. There's another fun thing that there is about definition. You can't, we were driving in the streets. It's cute when you see 5, 6 cats in a little pile, a little corner, kitty cats that give each other affection to keep them warm. Well, it's pretty weird when you see a pile of 5, 6 cows in the middle of the street making a little pile of cows. Not cow shit, a pile of actual cows clinging on the street because the asphalt in the night is hotter. It keeps some of the heat from the day. So in the day they're in the field because it's too hot, but in the night it's cold. So they go and they make piles of cows in the street. Okay. So from one village to the other, you roam between 10,000 cows per mile, piled in packs, slow, and then there's one that just decides to look at your headlights and look, So there's a guy that comes, come on, to hit it with his sticks, move out, car, try to go. And it was super awesome. So we're just moving through piles of cows. And it says, okay, there's still, that there's no overpopulation of cows. There's a problem of stray dogs in Mexico. There's a problem of stray cows in India. and they say you can't touch the cow because it's God. Can't touch the cows. Yeah, we don't hate cows here. It's God. Oh well, you see, in my country, we believe cow is God. That's why we put it in our body to ingest God. Because in our belief, and by the way, in our country, chicken is God too. And we eat it also. It's awesome. And the guy was like, oh my God, you're killing people. I said, well, each time you pluck a vegetable from the ground, you're a veggie killer. If you believe that life is undefined and everything has the right to thrive, at one point every carrot you ate, you're a murderer of carrots. If you go by this sense that every living being and entity should thrive, and veggies don't have a nervous system, but they have their way of being aware, which is not through senses, but there's a definite awareness. Life goes through that. You're a killer of veggies. You should eat meat. Save the veggies, which is ridiculous, But this idea that you can't eat meat because of killing, of the suffering you impose. Well, I understand, at one point the way that some cows are raised is not too good, but they're raised. The way that porks are raised, this is absolutely awful. Usually there's torture and blood, and they are in pain their entire life. So, I'm not in favor of that. I don't care about eating pork. It's not about if I eat pork or not. I usually don't, except if it's bacon once in a while, because you know I love it. You know, and then I go train and integrate my guilt of the poor porks dying. No, not really. So, thing is, if you eat meat, you'll have more strength in your body. You'll be stronger, more powerful physically, more manifested, with a short lifespan, because you'll have more intoxicants, and it's harder for your body to process. So when you eat meat, you live more powerfully, a shorter span. When you eat veggie, you live much longer, but light and soft. Okay, that's the difference. There's nothing to judge in there. It's simply an action has a consequence. Okay? And if you don't need to be physically powerful, you should not eat meat, because you want to have a happier, more stable, longer life. However, if you never eat proteins in any way, you'll just grow weak and you'll still die young. Okay? So there has to be a balance in everything. Okay? If whatever you've defined, even Sakyamuni Buddha, he ate pork. We have the best proof that he ate pork is he died from a bacteria that you can have only when you eat pork. That doesn't mean that he ate pork once and, oh shit, that time he ate pork and you see karma, he died. No. Of all the times that he ate pork, at one point he got a bacteria that he already had in the past and healed correctly, but this time he was 80 years old, so it killed him. Okay? Because at the other time in the sutras he says, you can put meat in my bowl when I beg for food. It's just don't go kill a pork for me. I don't care. It's just don't do this for me. But if there's pork on the menu, I'm sure gonna eat it. It's cool. It's good. You know, he was a prince until the age of 29, and he was trained to become the next king. He had extreme military tactics training. He had extreme management skills. He was very objective, because only results matter, because he was going to become a king. Okay? So when he shifted that, I mean, he became Sakyamuni. He didn't despise anything. He did not define if you should be vegan or not. He never spoke about that. Never. He spoke of consequences in various ways. Of course, anyone who hears that, who studied the sutra, will pull the sutras, where say, I got this sutra here that Buddha says you should eat veggies. Say, well, okay, there's another sutra that says he doesn't care eating meat. It's okay, you know. This is what I mean about the definitions we put in our mind, and everything we pack ourselves with what is okay or not, for the purpose that the porks are the kind of entities or creatures that is raised through suffering. Not all the time, in the majority of time, but not all the time. But I mean, some creatures, some cats live in a single house all their life. You never let them out, and you find it appropriate. Some dogs, they live in a backyard with a chain, and you find it appropriate. And so that's appropriate. You can't eat the porks because they live in this place all their lives without freedom. But my dog is in my backyard, he'll never get out because there's a law, I can't let him loose. I mean, these porks are raised the way that any other animal are raised, and they're probably happy just having nuts to pay bills, nuts to manage the picking up of the shit on the ground. I mean, you dramatize too much about this stuff. Yeah, I'm just saying, you're a vegetable murderer if you believe that you're a meat murderer. Okay? Now there's a funny one, which is just a joke, by the way. But it says, how would God, why we're not supposed to eat animals if they're made out of meat? Which is a pro-meat joke. Okay, forget it. Do you believe that creation was done perfectly? Huh? If it was made by God, then it was made by God. If it wasn't, it wasn't. But however it was, when it appeared, when it happened, it was done in a certain way, which is the way that nature is. So we all say we don't want to go against nature, but in nature, you've got wolves that eat the little cows, okay? You've got lions that go through for the antelope. There are animals in nature that eat meat. Therefore, if your body is capable of digesting meat and your teeth are equipped to eat it, then in nature you are meant to have the ability to do so, and there should not be judgments about it because you are created that way. And you would be the first one to say that you are not created perfectly. How will you become a perfectly empowered being if you first say things like that, that you are imperfect and you are made imperfect and therefore there's no way to reach perfection? Because you're made not to have sex because you lose your energy, not to eat meat because it shortens your life, but it makes you more powerful while you have it. You just burn the candle quicker. Okay. Also makes you more sick and have more physical pain in the end. But, you know, it's a consequence. I mean, there's a reason why you shouldn't eat meat, not because of guilt. Because of conscious of the consequence. Causality, karma. Know it. All these beliefs that you were made in a way that whatever you do is incorrect because there's a law in some religion that says that what you do is incorrect. But then you turn around and in your backyard you have all the shit that is incorrect, but it's justified by it's so cool to have a dog tied with a chain. Now you're the one raising an animal in this enslavement. However, if you put yourself in the opinion of the dog, did you ever transmigrate in a dog? Those who know how to physically incarnate an existing dog to know the experience, they're super happy to see you and they roam around. They have no sense of time. If you're gone for 15 minutes or 15 hours, they just wait. They don't have sense of time. It takes a much more longer period of time for them to be bored compared to humans. And they are so happy, awesome when you go and give them some kind of food. And pet them, and you know, there is no torture in this, okay? If you don't physically hurt the animal with lesion and pain, usually they're pretty fine with it, okay? So, the hypocrite that says, you have cows that have a limited time and all they do all their life is roam around and eat and everything. Yeah, but you have a cat that all he does is sleep there, sleep there, sleep there, and eat. Poop, sleep there. Putting him in the garden, you know? You're hypocrite, and your arguments in favor of this or against that are hypocrite. We're still in the class of RIN, by the way. We're in this class of can you free yourself of how you have defined everything and see them how they are and consider the results. Of course it's inappropriate for a man to beat a woman. Not because the law says so. Because the result is it creates more hatred and it breaks families. And people are in pain. And you should not impose to another being such kind of violence that you would not accept being imposed on you. That is inappropriate because you're not honest. You can't ask someone to go through an experience that you're not ready to go through yourself. Or else, who are you? This is arrogant. So of course it is completely unacceptable to rape. Not because there's a law, but because there's an obvious result of damage to people, of the rapists. They're not evil in nature, they're just animals. They don't control themselves. And what do we do with animals? We put them in cages, so we should do that. A rapist should go in jail. Do you understand the dynamics of what I say? To take things as they are and find a way to encourage happiness and reduce suffering in the world. And this is the first primary goal that we want in everything. If you want to be a good fighter, it's not because you want to kick some ass. If you feel that you want to kick some ass, it's because at some point you got something to protect. And if you got something to protect, it means that you are hurt and you don't want it to happen again. So you have an immature sense of justice if you want to be able to just kick some butt correctly. However, it spurs from a good intention and then it gets distorted along the way of arrogance. Okay? So taking things as they are. In nature, there are creatures who eat animals. If you do so, there will be consequences to your health. However, there's also consequences to your power. And our military people are encouraged to eat meat. Even in India, the full pro-vegan part, in their military caste, some of them are encouraged to eat meat because it obviously makes them stronger. So you have to take things as they are. And free your mind of beliefs and decide what you want to do according to the results that you have in your life through experiencing them prudently, of course. Don't hinder your safety. And decide for yourself how you want to live your life, but not based on opinions of what is correct or not, but based on what you feel. And, well, it can be called a belief at this point. What you have discovered for yourself, will usually bring happiness and less suffering. Okay? Then, when you have this attitude well cultivated, whatever you do, you will rock. You will be absolutely awesome because you won't have rules that hold you back and limit you from being a fully empowered being in whatever you want to do. For the curious, I really tend to diminish the amount of meat I eat, but sometimes I will do. It happens. There's people living in the far north. If they don't eat meat, they die. Okay, that's a fact. Okay, Eskimos in the north of Canada, the people in Nunavut, I mean, 90% of their diet was made of whales. And there are enlightened beings in that people. You can't go and be so judgmental and elitist. I mean, only the Hindu Brahman living in the hot weather can enlighten. What? No. There's people living in the cold that had very holy people, ascended masters. Wanataka is a master of the Indian, the Native American tradition. Okay. American Indians. Well. And Wanataka was a super hunter. And he did it. And he says, there will be a prey on my path today, and I will be grateful for its sacrifice, and one day I will sacrifice myself for it. But if there was an imbalance, if there was a problem with a population of deer, for example, they would be the one to go and protect the deers. Let's say there's a fire or they can't cross a river, they would also go and help out that population of deer to allow them to survive. For the pure hunters, it was just to make sure they reproduce so we can hunt more. But for the holy men, it was they offer us their meat when we need to survive. We're going to offer them our energy, our effort, when they need to survive. And they live in collaboration in that sense. Okay? Mm-hmm. So there's this sense of communion where we accept sometimes that meat is given away. So we just do it. We live how we can. I take the meat subject because in spirituality it's so controversial, so I emit my opinion about it, which is there is no opinion, there are facts, and then you can decide if you like me or not. And with the speech I just gave, you can be so aggravated by my opinions because you're convinced that you should never eat meat because you're a pure vegan, and that meat eaters are to be banished from this world, then you will stop studying with me, and that's my way of being relieved of you. If you're too stuck in this certitude that everything you know and you believe is the only way to live, I'll take another one. Cardiovascular. People who do an extreme amount of cardiovascular die younger. Can you imagine that? Those who do, I mean, most people to whom we say this don't do enough cardiovascular. So you should go and train, okay? But we're talking about athletes, sportsmen who do 2 hours of good intensity cardiovascular mostly every day, die younger. Because that kills your heart. What it does is it makes scars in your heart that you don't see, and they heal, but you're still jogging on it for another hour and a half, you know, and then you're done. The thing is, this is medical science. I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying what I've learned through a lot of research because I love going in deep in various subjects. So for a lot of time, I did 20 minutes per 2 days of cardiovascular, and on every other day, I would give a rush with weights, but an intense rush that makes me go boom, ba boom, ba boom, you know? Not just do my series in a gym, but do my qigongs and fight with 10 pounds in each hand, okay? And do my stuff and really do functional training. And it's really hard on the system and even the heart, but it's a peak and it's over. And it was discovered lately that it's better to do a 20-minute period with a good intensity once in a while and give yourself peace and then rest. The idea is when you're going to have a heart attack is that your heart reaches a point where it needs that extra edge, because there's 3 types of fibers in your muscles: the slow, the fast, and the super fast, the immediate response, okay? So by doing a lot of cardiovascular, your slow and your fast fibers become strong, but your super fast response, they never train. So when you train a lot of first and second degree fibers, when your heart goes through a problem that needs to give that extra push for just 2 heartbeats, it doesn't have what it needs because you didn't train it. You did 2 hours of intense, but not these immediate rush and rest. And then this is how your heart bursts, because it can't go through that bump. So when your heart is capable of doing that, then you're good for a long time. Okay, so these ideas that to train a good cardio, you need to do your hour per day of jogging, you're going to ruin your knees, ruin your heart, and die younger. But you did it to live longer. How ridiculous is that? Huh? So it's not just because of discoveries. You know, all the people who do a lot of spiritualities always tended to have the feeling, I prefer studying that amount of time and give a rush once in a while. That's how I feel, and I saw a lot of people do that. And even those who do martial arts, they don't do martial arts cardiovascular like crazy. They give themselves a rush of cardiovascular, and then it's much more technical. Then they have a fight, and in that fight, your heart goes awesome for 2 minutes, and then you stop sparring, you're over, okay? And in martial arts, we tend to have that system. 15, 20 minutes, half an hour of good cardiovascular, jumping jack, then you rest, you go technical, then you do sparring, bam, bam, you go intense, and you rest. Okay? And that happens to be actually the natural way that animals do. You won't see a lion train running. It will go slow, eventually moves from one area to another, it goes at good speed, and when it gives a rush, it's 5 minutes and it's over. So you even see this in nature, is when you need to survive, to hunt or to flee from the hunter, from predator. This is how animals succeed. It's through this natural way of doing things. So I mean, how much do you believe you must train in this way and then train in this way? Because you learn, because every training book you read said so, but now the training book says, well, actually jogging that we said for 200 years in military training was essential. Actually, it makes you into being unable to jog eventually because your knees can't take it. And you know, everything is changing. So even in the military and the police training now, they're starting to change that way of training, because if we want you to be a good cop in 20 years, we can't have you ruin your knees. We have to find other ways, you know. So that was just an opinion, you know, about being vegetarian, and now about being that. And now I say, what I just said, if you can eat meat or not, and what I just said about the proper training periods you should have, doesn't mean it's the truth. It doesn't mean. I'm just saying I just explained something different, that now this is what science is discovering, and using that, what proves that science is accurate now more than before? Well, I have a good reason. I say science progresses, and even though they might discover something better later, I know probably what they discovered now is better than what they knew in the past, because science still progresses. It does gain in credibility and precision over time. So I say, well, you know, I was told by my trainers and gyms, oh, you should do this and that, and you're not doing it correctly. Yeah, I know, but I feel like doing it this way. And I stuck to myself, because I feel that something is true when it tastes like the truth. And I feel that it's not good for me when I feel there's something about illusion. I learned to go feel the threshold of reality in everything I do, because of that simple training. Om Vajra Swaha. To learn to discover things as they are, and immediately if I do something, I'll have a feeling. Is this in reality? Is there a sense of truth? Or is this based on illusion? Is there a dream about it? Sometimes I don't get it, but most of the time I do. Okay? So train a lot, and you'll get this.